track it real fast. We're at 800 DPI, 3 for Windows, and 3.8 in-game. So we track really fast. It goes where we wanted it to. So it looks like we have some good news. This is where it's supposed to go. And then if we track really fast, quite fast, we get that negative acceleration and the mouse cursor going downward. The faster you track, the more downward, the more negative your acceleration. It's pretty pathetic. And when we go that moderate pace, that moderately fast pace, we get that tons of positive acceleration, just like we did with 400 DPI and the other settings to match. Let's go to 1600. So we're going to go to 1600 DPI, and we're going to have the same 3 sensitivity, except that instead of 3.8, we're going to go to 1.8. 1.8. $1,600. When we move it slowly, it goes to this notch before the fence. We're going to do it one more time. Slowly. And it's very precise. It stays 0 acceleration, but if we move it quite fast, we get a little bit of positive acceleration. Move it really fast, we get a whole bunch of negative acceleration. It seems like when you raise your DPI, your mouse gets more inconsistent. If we move it quite fast, again, we see that there's positive acceleration. Move it slowly, goes to where you wanted it to go. I'm going to do one last setting. It's going to be 3200 DPI at 2 in Windows sensitivity, and I'm going to change it to 3.8 in-game. So this is actually kind of aggravating. 3.8. We're going to go back to the game. 400, 800, 1600, 3200. Okay. When we move it slowly across the board, we see it comes to about the fence. That's our finish line. When we move it really fast, we get negative acceleration and that downward cursor movement. Here's the strange thing. Did anyone else see that? Well, I guess it's kind of hard to see, but it's really easy to feel. There's a whole lot of lag, and it catches up with you with positive acceleration. So you move it, and it just keeps going after you're done moving. You move it, and it just keeps going, and it goes really, really unacceptable positive acceleration. 3200 DPI is unacceptable, even at high sensitivity, because you get this strange lag effect. Don't use it. Okay, as you can see, it seems like the Kinzu has a bunch of malfunctions and inconsistencies with DPI, acceleration in-game. So, this is all default Windows 7 64-bit, default pretty much everything except for the drivers. Okay, so I'm going to go back down to the 400 sensitivity, and I'm going to, or the 400 DPI, and I'm going to change it back to 6, because that's default. Default, and I'm going to change back to, I'm going to change it back to 1.8. And this time I'm going to change the polling rate. So we go to our settings, and I'm going to go to 500 Hertz. When we click apply, we click OK, to 6. So we're at 400 DPI, 6 windows, and 1.8 in-game. And we're at 500 hertz this time instead of a kilohertz. And we move it slowly. It goes exactly where we wanted it to, that fence. We move it quickly. We still get the negative acceleration. And if we move it kind of quickly, we still get the positive acceleration. Strange. And for the sake of time, I will say that 125 hertz gives you the same results, and all of the other settings combined with, so 3200, 1600, with different polling rates also come up with the same results. So there's no magical setting. They're all broken. We now know that the Kinzu is kind of goofy, but what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to unplug the Kinzu, and I'm going to plug in the Death Adder. I'm going to move my Kinzu off the table, and I'm going to set it to its default, which is 1800 DPI. It's the best setting for it, and I'm going to give it 3 windows and 2.2 in-game. Man, my hands are cold. Anyway, I'm going to do the same test. Slowly takes me to the fence. That's the finish line. And we're going to do it quickly. Takes us to the finish line, which is the fence. That's exactly where I wanted it to go. I'm going to do it again. Takes us to the finish line, which is the fence. So if you move it really quick, you actually get no negative or positive acceleration with the Death Adder. And there's also no positive acceleration when you move it kind of fast. It goes to the fence every time. I can approve of the Death Adder's 0 acceleration for all practical in-game use. I'm going to unplug the Death Adder. Diamondback 3G is plugged in. We're going to do the same test. 1800 DPI, 3 in-game sensitivity, or sorry, 3 mouse or Windows sensitivity. I'm really hungry too. 2.2 in-game sensitivity. I believe it's 1800 DPI on the Diamondback 3G. If it's 1600, well then that's the default. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do the slow mouse test. It goes to about the fence, but it goes almost to the beam. And I'm going to try going really fast with the Diamondback 3G. It skips. I'm going to hold the mouse heavy on the surface to make sure that I'm not lifting off. And I'm going to move it really fast, and it actually appeared like it performed fine. But it skips. It seems like half the time it'll skip. So, as you can see, nothing actually happened. It skips when you move it fast enough. At a practical movement speed for most gamers, there's no positive acceleration or negative acceleration. That time I hit my mouse foot on the... So, at practical tracking speeds, the Diamondback 3G doesn't really skip. But for many, you're going to need that speed, and it seems like the Diamondback 3G skips before the Death Adder does, because I wasn't able to get it to skip. As you can see, my Diamondback 3G skips. While the Kinzu didn't skip, you had an assortment of other problems like negative acceleration, strange cursor drop, and positive acceleration in different cases. So,